How do you take a loss on an investment so it helps your tax situation and it helps your performance? Join me as I talk about tax loss harvesting. All right, guys, there's three things I want to cover in this video. One, what is tax loss? Actually, there's four things. What is tax loss harvesting? Okay. When should I do it? Okay. The frequency of it and how exactly do I do it? So here's the thing. Here's the first one, tax loss harvesting. If you're in a taxable account, you can take a loss on a position, right? So let's say you own ABC, and let's just say for easy math, you have $100,000 in it. And somewhere within the year, that $100,000 position drops to, let's say, $80,000. You can sell at that, take a $20,000 loss, and do one of two things. One, wait 30 calendar days and buy the same symbol back, okay? Or almost better, or maybe even better, buy a different but similar enough symbol that gives you exposure to the same asset. For example, if you own large cap US stocks, you could sell that at a loss and you could replace it with mid cap US stocks. And you have exposure to both US stocks in both situations, but you're able to take the loss on one hand and still stay exposed to the market. So that was the first thing, is why to do tax loss harvesting, right? Okay, so let's talk about when to do it. You want to set the frequency, or you want to think about when to do it. So the first is you can just say after a really big loss. So in 2020, there was the COVID crash, or whatever it's going to be called. S&P was down 34%. Now, here's the thing. You never know in hindsight, or until hindsight, what the low is going to be. We didn't know if the low was going to be 25% down, 35% down, 45% down. Turns out with the S&P, it was only 34% down. NASDAQ 100 was only down 28%. So one of the things you can do is say, okay, if one of my positions, and let's just say for the ease of this conversation, one of your positions is the S&P 500. You could just say, look, if this thing's down 25%, I'm just going to liquidate that, and I'm going to replace it with, for example, equal weighting S&P 500. So an equal weighting S&P 500 symbol is RSP. So as far as when could be, you just have a indicator that, hey, I'm down 25%. I'm going to take the loss and I'm going to replace it with a different but similar enough symbol. You can do this if you're a trader too. Let's say you're into small cap, I'm just trying to think of something, small cap growth stocks. Well, there's probably about a dozen of them that are acting almost similarly. So if you're down big on one, say, you're down on ABC and you're down 50%, you could take a loss on that, and you probably could very quickly see what similar stocks are doing the exact same thing to that and just replace it with that. Thereby, you could take the loss in the first symbol, replace it with the second. Those symbols move up and down because let's just say they're both small cap growth in the US. Okay, so you can do it that way too. So in answering when is after a big fall. The other thing you could do as far as when and frequency kind of go together, it's kind of the same thing, is you could simply say at the end of each quarter, just look at your cost basis and say, okay, I have this cost basis. Let's say it's negative. You could replace it with something and you could see, oh, that might be worth it. So after a big loss, as far as when and frequency, and you can just do kind of a time, end of each quarter. And for sure, look at it before the end of the year. You could look at it December 1st. So you could even just do it once a year, December 1st every year, look at your positions. If one is down enough, you could replace it with a similar like symbol and you'd get the tax benefit, meaning you'd take the loss in the first symbol and you could replace it with the second symbol. And again, the example I gave is, let's just say you own the S&P 500, right, IVV. And if you are at a big loss with that, let's just say on December 1st, you could say, okay, I'm at a loss. Let's say it's down 25%. You could replace it with mid-cap. Now, what you can't do is say it's a Fidelity S&P 500 symbol and you just replace it with a Vanguard S&P 500 symbol. That's not going to work. It's the same symbol with a different name. It actually has to be different. So you could do, say, an S&P 500 and replace it with equal weighted S&P 500. So that's how you could do it. You could look for a like symbol, and therefore you get the benefit of taking that tax loss, right? You have a loss on your taxes, but you've replaced it with a similar enough yet different to the IRS. And so you still have the same exposure. Easy enough with equity, right? Because you could do a large cap with a mid cap, or a mid cap with a small cap, or a cap weighted with an equal weighted, and therefore it allows it. But the big takeaway is you have to kind of pick when you do it, so you systematize it. And this is true if you watched any of my videos. Systematize, systematize, systematize. Because the more we have to think about each day, now what do I do? How do I do that? Something called decision fatigue is going to kick in, and it is not going to help. So you want to have this systematized. My suggestion is once a quarter, you just look, or just December 1st of each year, take a look what losses you have and then replace them. The more you can systematize, the more tax loss harvesting will work. What doesn't work, I'll just say this, is like a weekly or a monthly, or it becomes almost this campaign. If you're having to take losses weekly or monthly, your approach just isn't working, right? So tax loss harvesting is something when something doesn't work, or when the position you own has gotten hit. For example, let's say you believe in China tech, right? There's one symbol, KWEB, KWEB. Okay, and let's say that takes a 25 or 35% hit, which is very likely when you get these symbols that are very volatile. Well, if you know, you could replace it with maybe something like CQQQ, or China Nasdaq 100, right? So you could take the loss on that and you could replace it, like China Internet, with China Tech, and you'd have a similar enough exposure. That would be an example of how it could work. Especially think about this if you're really going to be in these higher volatile symbols. It's probably a good idea to know that, okay, I may want to think about this. But again, it goes all back to the plan happens before. The strategy is what's most important, not the symbol. Most people have been taught the symbol is what matters. That's actually not true. It's actually the system or the plan or the approach that has you buy the symbol, how you own the symbol, how you keep the symbol, how you add to the symbol, or how you leave the symbol. That's all strategy. And that's what matters most. Thanks guys for watching this. If you like this video, you're gonna love the other videos I have for you at the end. And please go ahead and hit the like, leave a comment, ring the bell, do all the things that YouTube loves, because it matters. Thanks for being in my world, and I'll see you guys on the next video. All right, take care.